Chapter 91. Rescue, end of the combat session. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91. Rescue, end of the combat session. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. After breaking through to the third level of the Chi C stage, Chu Yunfan could feel that his strength had increased by a level even though he was in this absolutely calm state. His true energy was constantly increasing, and he was obviously much stronger than the second level of the Chi C stage. In particular, his strength was stronger than ordinary people. It was much more difficult for him to reach the peak of each realm than ordinary people. However, once he broke through, his strength would also increase greatly. However, he could not care about these things right now. He only wanted to have a great battle to his heart's content. Although, he was not a match for the armored saber-toothed tiger. In the eyes of outsiders, it was a dangerous situation. However, Chu Yunfan felt extremely good. He slashed out over 100 times in a row. These were not casual slashes, but a great array of saber techniques. The power was extremely great and was extremely taxing on his physical strength. Normally, he would be extremely tired. However, at this moment, a clear current flowed through his entire body, relieving his tiredness and making him invincible. Therefore, at this moment, he did not need to think about anything else. He only needed to fight, fight, and fight. He actually broke through in the middle of a battle. F***ck. Gao Hongji looked at Chu Yunfan, who seemed to have fallen into a crazed state, and could not help but be tongue-tied. Although he could only see a part of it, he could still see that Chu Yunfan's speed and strength had obviously improved greatly as compared to before. The result was obvious. At this moment, Chu Yunfan could not hear these things. In his mind, there were only attacks, and more unrestrained attacks. He did not know how long he had been in this state. In this state, he had blurred the concept of time. He only felt that a long time had passed and that he had gained a lot. Bam! Chu Yunfan slashed at the foot of the armored saber-toothed tiger, continuously slashing at the same place. Finally, he cut through the scales of the armored saber-toothed tiger and slashed out a stream of blood. The armored saber-toothed tiger was furious from the pain, and it became even more ferocious. Then, it crazily attacked the three of them. The three of them joined together to help each other, but they were immediately at a disadvantage. After a series of battles, although the duration was not long, to the three of them, the stamina consumption of this battle was more than 10 times that of an ordinary battle. Even Chu Yunfan, who was in a brave state, could barely hold out any longer. At this moment, the three of them truly understood why the body was the foundation of a martial artist. No matter how many moves there were, no matter how powerful the moves were, if the body could not hold out, it would be useless. As for the other two people, especially Gao Hongji who used his spear to fight against the monsters, their palms were already a bloody mess. Their flesh had been torn apart several times. Finally, just when the three of them felt that they could not hold on any longer, a loud shout came from the sky. It was a saber technique that fell from the sky. A blinding light cut through the sky and directly flew toward the armored saber-toothed tiger. Slash! The armored saber-toothed tiger let out a miserable cry and was cut into two halves by the strike. Its huge body, which was as big as a small mountain, fell to two sides with a loud bang. You guys are all fine. Not bad. Look at you. You actually managed to hold off the armored saber-toothed tiger for so long. The three of them turned their heads and saw that the person who had struck out was none other than Xue Bailong. At first, they thought that the person who would arrive first would be Qin Wu. They had not expected it to be Xue Bailong. It was a long story, but in fact, it was only a short period of time. However, it was such a short period of time that made the three of them feel as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. They truly understood what it meant to live as long as a year. Or even as long as a second. The three of them immediately sat down on the ground. Previously, they did not feel threatened by the armored saber-toothed tiger. But now that the threat had been removed, they immediately felt a huge sense of exhaustion invade their bodies. Lieutenant Xue, why would a monster like the adult armored saber-toothed tiger appear on the battlefield where the students are training? I think you have to give our school an explanation. Qin Wu finally arrived. There was a hint of anger on his face. There had been a mistake and he had almost not been able to save them in time. If Chu Yunfan and the other two had died, the consequences would be unimaginable. Xue Bailong's face showed a rare hint of embarrassment. Normally, the army would shoot powerful monsters at the outermost edge of the battlefield and only let in some weak ones. This is indeed our negligence. We'll talk to your principal about this when the time comes. Xue Bailong immediately regained his seriousness and said, originally, our plan was to use sniping. However, this adult armored saber-toothed tiger is a monster in the acquired stage. Ordinary sniping won't be able to do anything to it. Only large-caliber sniping equipment could kill it. However, the blast radius of the impact would be too wide, and it would be easy to accidentally injure you guys. Therefore, in the end, I decided to take action. Fortunately, your performance was not bad, and you were able to hold out until I arrived. Damn, if you ask me to do that again, I won't be able to do it. Gao Hongji shouted. His whole body was soaked in sweat as if he had been fished out of the water. In such a short time, he was even more tired than if he had practiced martial arts for a whole day. As he shouted, he sprayed healing mist on his wounds. It was so painful that he was grimacing in pain. He had not felt it during the big battle, but now he was in pain. Not bad, guys. I've underestimated you. If you're interested in joining the army, you can come to me. I'll recommend you. Xue Bailong said as he looked at the three of them, especially Chu Yunfan. He had seen Chu Yunfan's performance before. In front of an adult armored saber-toothed tiger, Chu Yunfan was neither anxious nor impatient. He even had the courage to fight back. This was what Xue Bailong valued the most. A brave person would fight even when faced with difficult odds. Strength could be improved, skills could be honed, but without the courage to charge at a strong enemy, everything would be in vain. Thank you for your kind intentions, Lieutenant Xue. We'll seriously consider it. Chu Yunfan nodded and said. He was still recalling the feeling he had when he had just broken through. Under that state of godly courage, he had improved vastly. However, that stunning slash just now had also deeply shocked him. Although he knew that Xue Bailong was very strong, Xue Bailong had blown the three of them away. The adult armored saber-toothed tiger, who died tragically, could not even withstand a single move from Xue Bailong. Only then did he understand what true strength was. However, he was not discouraged. There would come a day in the future when he would also reach that level, or even surpass it. Chu Yunfan and the other two were saved, which made the students who were paying attention to them feel relieved. At this moment, they were in the mood to pay attention to their previous performance. The three of them did not give up when facing the adult armored saber-toothed tiger. Their performance was excellent. However, it was obvious that Chu Yunfan's performance was the best. The damage that the three of them had managed to deal toward the armored saber-toothed tiger was caused only by Chu Yunfan. They were able to see that invincible state from afar. Every time Chu Yunfan dodged the armored saber-toothed tiger's attack, it would be extremely dangerous, as though the next time would be the last. However, that figure, they would probably remember it forever in their hearts. And now, with the trio having been saved, the actual combat session ended a few hours earlier. Chapter 92. Cooperating with Lu Qingxian again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. Cooperating with Lu Qingxian again. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless fantasy translation. Due to such an unexpected incident, the actual combat training ended a few hours earlier. Fortunately, everybody was safe and the objective of the actual combat training had been achieved. All of the students had got their breakthroughs. Those who gained more had a breakthrough on the spot, while those who gained less would also have a breakthrough within a few days after returning. On the transport plane home, many students were still very excited. Although they had just experienced such danger, regardless of the fact that they were all young people, the shock came and went quickly. They began to excitedly discuss the gains they had gained during this period of time. Compared to when they arrived 10 days ago, it was obvious that there was a difference. There was a fierce aura radiating from their bodies. On the plane, Chu Yunfan, Gao Hongji, and Tang Xiyu were the focus of everyone's attention. Everyone had clearly seen how the three of them had withstood the armored saber-toothed tiger. Although it had only been just for a short period of time, it was nevertheless most impressive. Their fame across the two focus classes had started to rise, especially Chu Yunfan, who had just made a name for himself this past few months. He became the focus of many people's curiosity. However, at this moment, Chu Yunfan was completely ignoring the gazes of the people around him and was immersing himself in his cultivation. Jin Feng said to Qin Wu, who was beside him, "Your class's Chu Yunfan is indeed a great black horse. In such a chaotic and noisy situation, he can still enter a meditative state. He doesn't even need to take a meditative pill. Just this willpower alone will allow him to have a limitless future." A meditative state at any time and place was nothing to someone of their cultivation level. The battlefield was much more noisy than this. However, Chu Yunfan had only cultivated for a few years while they had cultivated for many years. He's always achieving some sort of miracle. Originally, I didn't think that there would be any surprises in this year's college entrance exam. It thought it would be nothing more than Zhangtang, Ouyang, and a few others who would be able to compete with the other schools. Now, it seems that there's more to it than that. Qin Wu said as he smiled. Then, his gaze swept over to Tang Xiyu and Gao Hongji. Their performance had also been quite outstanding and their future was worth looking forward to. The transport plane quickly returned to number 13 high school. The school immediately gave the students a holiday and did not continue with their classes. But Chu Yunfan did not go home directly. Instead, he went to Lu Qingxuan's pill company. Meanwhile, Lu Qingxian, who was working, was curious as to the reason for Chu Yunfan's visit. During this period of time, because of Chu Yunfan's Meridian's cleansing pill, Lu Qingxian was able to secure Jinghua City very quickly, which finally got the company out of their precarious situation. It could even be said that the company's standing had risen to another level, and it had recruited several other alchemists from other places. Chu Zhigua could make the alchemists in Calm Ocean City and even Donghua City inaccessible to Lu Qingxian, but his hands were not long enough to affect the other satellite cities. However, the person she valued the most in her heart was still Chu Yunfan. Although Chu Yunfan had only displayed the ability to produce 2 types of pills, it was enough to make her feel amazed. But Chu Yunfan did not seem to have the intention of developing his alchemy skills. He only came to look Nav-Om for her when there was a need. Of course, every time he looked for her, it was a win-win outcome. Lu Qingxian received Chu Yunfan in the company's reception room. "Master Chu, for what reason have you come to look for me today?" Lu Qingxian looked at Chu Yunfan and asked. Chu Yunfan sat on the soft sofa, took a sip of tea, and did not directly answer Lu Qingxuan's question. Instead, he said, "I was wondering how the feedback from the Meridian's cleansing pill." The feedback was very good. There's a short supply of Meridian's cleansing pills on the market at the moment. Among them, perfect quality Meridian's cleansing pills are even rarer. The customer is very satisfied. Lu Qingxian was a little puzzled as to why Chu Yunfan brought up this topic, but she still answered honestly. "Would you like to cooperate again, Ms. Lu?" Chu Yunfan said. "Cooperate again? What do you mean, Master Chu?" Lu Qingxian asked. I can help you refine a whole batch of perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills. Chu Yunfan said calmly. What? Perfect. Quality, are you serious, Master Chu? Lu Qingxuan's eyes lit up as she quickly responded. She could not help but recall that although standard. Quality meridians cleansing pills were in short supply, as long as one had money, they could be bought. However, perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were not something that could be bought with money. In addition, meridians cleansing pills were very effective, causing perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills to be sold out as soon as they appeared. Last time, she did not have any channels, so she had to go through a lot of trouble. But now, as soon as she released the news, it would surely be sold out in a minute. Of course, I'm serious. I would not joke with you about this. Chu Yunfan nodded. Lu Qingxian got up from her desk, went to the sofa in front of Chu Yunfan, and sat down. Then she said, since you're interested in cooperating, then I'll tell you everything, Master Chu. For each perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pill you make, I'm willing to give you 1.5 million. How about it? Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Sight only this time, Chu Yunfan was surprised. Meridians cleansing pills were usually sold for more than 2 million. Perfect. Quality pills could be sold for more than 3. However, just the ingredients alone would cost more than 1 million. If he was given another 1.5 million, after deducting the tax, the middleman fee, channel merchant fee, and other shares, she would not make much at all. Of course, I'd have no problems with that price, but you won't be able to earn any profit. Chu Yunfan said with some doubt. He believed that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world, especially for merchants. It was natural to not do something that doesn't bring any benefits. Seeing Chu Yunfan's doubt, Lu Qingxian immediately understood. She opened her mouth to say, Master Chu, do you think I'm joking? Of course not. It's just like what you said. I won't be making much at the end of the day, but to me, there's something more important than making money right now. Master Chu, you should know that our company is being bullied by the Tingda Group. They've blocked all of our sales channels in Calm Ocean City. All the distributors are not willing to offend the Tingda Group. Previously, this was fine. But I don't believe that they'll be indifferent to perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills. As long as we open a gap, the pressure from the Tingda Group will cease to exist. After all, although Chu Zhigua is the heir of the Tingda Group, he can't represent the Tingda Group. At most, he can only secretly pressure them. Lu Qingxian said in high spirits. All right, we'll join hands and break Tingda Group's blockade. Chu Yunfan said as he smacked the sofa. This time, Teal concoct you 30 perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills. Chapter 93. The ripples caused by meridians cleansing pills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. The ripples caused by meridians cleansing pills. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation 30 perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were the results of Chu Yunfan's calculations. Meridians cleansing pills themselves were not considered particularly rare pills. The reason why perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were so sought after was because its medicinal effects were much better than standard meridians cleansing pills. The most important point was that perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were relatively rare. An ordinary person would not be able to make them. Moreover, alchemists who were confident in making them had no interest in it. It was basically a coincidence that they had refined it. If there were too many of them, the value of perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills would drop by a lot. Naturally, they would not be able to sell for more than 3 million. As for 30 perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills, Chu Yunfan would be able to obtain 40.5 million for them. It would definitely be more than enough to treat his sister's illness. It would even be enough to support a considerable portion of his cultivation expenditure. When Lu Qingxian heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. 30 perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were enough for her to do many things. She did not doubt Chu Yunfan's ability. She had seen Chu Yunfan concoct pills with her own eyes. She had never seen that kind of aura from other alchemists. It was a confidence of having absolute control over everything. It was as if he was a god in this field. As long as one were to see that scene, anyone would be infected by Chu Yunfan's aura and unconsciously believe in him. It's just that 30 meridians cleansing pills requires a lot of capital. Can you handle it? Chu Yunfan asked with some doubt. Even if he did not take into account the expenditure of an alchemist like him, the cost of concocting 1 meridian's cleansing pill was already more than 1 million. 30 would mean more than 30 million. That was more than double the assets of Lu Qingxuan's company. Till go get a loan. My dad still has some connections at the bank from back then. He'll mortgage everything that belongs to my company. In addition to mortgaging our family's house, we should be able to get a loan. I'm not worried about not being able to sell perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills. The funds will also return quickly. As long as we handle it properly, there won't be any problems. Lu Qingxian said through gritted teeth. Chu Yunfan could not help but have a whole new level of respect for Lu Qingxian. In terms of business, Lu Qingxian was indeed very courageous. She could be called a strong woman and her achievements in the future were limitless. He was willing to work with such a partner. He had no intention of stepping into the business world. With such a partner, he could save himself a lot of trouble. Although the current Lu Qingxian was not strong enough, it was also because of this that they could work together on an equal footing. If Lu Qingxian was a behemoth like the Tingda group, she would not take an alchemy trainee like him seriously. Master Chu, I'll take out a loan, it'll take about 10 days. In addition, it will take some time to order and transport the ingredients for the Meridian's cleansing pill from the Kunlun realm. So, I think we should be able to start refining pills in half a month. What do you think? Lu Qingxian asked. Chu Yunfan nodded and said, I have no objections to that. He was also deeply moved. In modern society, there were indeed many things that the ancient Zenith civilization could not compare to. One only has to go online and order an item, even if it was from far away, someone would send it over. During the ancient Zenith civilization, alchemists had spent a considerable part of their lifetime searching for suitable medicinal ingredients. The time between concocting one pill and the next pill was quite long. The growth speed of alchemists could not compare to that of their modern counterparts. Since it's like this, you should make some preparations first. I'll come back in half a month. When the time comes, prepare the contract and follow the proper procedures. Now that I've passed the examination for the alchemy trainee license, it's fine to follow the proper procedures. Chu Yunfan said. The body refining pills that he had previously made with Lu Qingxian were actually considered illegal and could not be brought to the public eye. It was just that the flow of body refining pills was too great. No one would be able to investigate the source of body refining pills. However, a large number of perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were different. It would possibly attract the attention of others. Fortunately, he had already passed the examination to become an alchemy trainee. According to the rules, he could sell the pills that he made. This was also the reason why, even though he was very anxious, if he wanted to treat his sister's injuries, he had to wait until he passed the examination and become an alchemy trainee before he could start preparing. All right. Lu Qingxian said. Modern laws were very strict. If one could follow the procedures, it would be best to do so. The previous cooperation with Chu Yunfan had been a last resort. Chu Yunfan was very short of money, and she could not find an alchemist who could make body refining pills. It had been a product of helplessness. Now that Lu Qingxian had the conditions to follow the proper path, she was not willing to take the risk. After sending Chu Yunfan off, Lu Qingxian immediately used her own channels to spread the news that a large number of perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills were about to enter the market. Just as she had expected, perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills were very attractive. Not long after, a call came knocking on her door. In a call projection from her phone, it was a middle-aged man in a suit who was slightly plump. Qingxian, I heard that you have a perfect quality Meridians cleansing pill. The middle-aged man did not want to waste a minute and quickly asked. Lu Qingxian looked at the middle-aged man and the corners of her mouth curled up into a mocking smile. This was her father's business partner and they could be considered old friends. However, due to the pressure from the Tingda group, they had basically closed their distribution channels to her. She remained expressionless. That mocking smile only lasted for a moment. She knew that this was the way of doing business. They would gather for profit and disperse when there were none to be made. Moreover, the relationship between the two parties was not that deep. Uncle Li, you're right. I do indeed have a batch of perfect quality Meridians cleansing pills. Lu Qingxian said calmly. The middle-aged man's comprehension ability was not weak, and he quickly caught the main point of this sentence. He said, a batch of perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills. Eldest niece, I can take all of these Meridians cleansing pills. I'll be sure to pay you a good price for them. I won't let you suffer a loss. He did not care where Lu Qingxian got the Meridians cleansing pills. He just needed to get all of them. A batch of perfect Meridians cleansing pills was too useful. Just as Lu Qingxian thought of breaking through the blockade of the Tingda group instead of making money, this middle-aged man thought the same way as well. He had too many things he needed to take care of on a daily basis. Those big shots did not care too much about perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills. But considering that they had a few juniors to care for, this was a very good opportunity. If he had these Meridians cleansing pills, everything that had been originally hard to say would be easier to talk about. Chapter 94. Being honest with the family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. Being honest with the family. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. That won't do, Uncle Li, someone else has already ordered this batch of perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills. Lu Qingxian revealed a somewhat troubled expression. But then she continued. If it was someone else, I would not have agreed. But who asked our two families to be friends? I can give you 3 of this batch of perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills, but I also have conditions. In business, I know that Chu Zhigua is pressuring you to not accept our company's pills, but you also know that it's just Chu Zhigua's own personal wish. It also doesn't represent the Tingda group. If you're willing to raise your hand and give our company a way out, then everything will be fine, Uncle Li. The middle-aged man's expression was slightly conflicted, as if he was weighing the pros and cons. In a short while, he made his decision. No problem. You and I are family friends. What's the point of contemplating any further? However, Qingxian, you suddenly managed to get a batch of perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills. Could it be that you've gotten acquainted with some alchemy master? I was wondering if you could introduce me to him. Uncle Li, there's nothing I can do about it. I've signed a confidentiality agreement with the person and there's nothing I can do about it. However, I can promise you that the next time there are good pills, I'll inform you immediately. What do you think, Uncle Li? Lu Qingxian rejected him without any hesitation. Of course, she understood what the other party was thinking. Compared to these few perfect. Quality Meridians cleansing pills, the most important thing was to be able to obtain them. As long as he could get in touch with the maker, he could have as many as he wanted. Of course, she would not give the middle-aged man a chance to get in touch with Chu Yunfan. That was the guarantee and opportunity for her company to rise from the dead to the next level. All right, I'll come to visit you at your house soon. That's all for today then. Seeing that he could not get any information from Lu Qingxian, the middle-aged man could only give up. Just as he hung up the phone, Lu Qingshuan's phone rang again. It was another dealer. Lu Qingshuan's beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. Chu Zhigua, you probably did not expect that your so-called blockade would be broken in such a way. Just you wait. One day, I will defeat you. And even the Tingda group behind you. Chu Yunfan returned home. Although there was still some time before he could get the money to treat his sister's illness, Chu Yunfan felt that it was time to confess to his family. Although it would be a while before he got the money, it would take time to find the best hospital and hire the best doctor for his sister. He needed to make preparations in advance. In the evening, Chu Wenqing and Yang Yayun returned. They were just ordinary office workers. It was normal for them to go to work on time every day. Seeing that their son had returned, the two of them finally relaxed their nervous hearts. Although they had talked on the phone for the past few nights, they could finally breathe easy after only having seen their son return safely. You've lost a lot of weight. You haven't eaten well these few days, have you? What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. Yang Yayan said. It's okay. I will eat anything. Chu Yunfan quickly said with a smile. Chu Wenqing looked at Chu Yunfan with some gratification and said, You've grown a lot. You've seen blood. Not bad, not bad. Although they both cared about Chu Yunfan, Chu Wenqing, as his father, and Yang Yayun, as his mother, cared about different things. Not bad. Everything went pretty smoothly. Chu Yunfan said with a smile. He did not tell them about the dangerous encounter with the adult armored saber-toothed tiger today. After all, it was all in the past. He did not want his parents to be on tenterhooks because of the past. Dad, Mom, don't be in a hurry to cook. I have something to tell you. Xian, you come here too. Chu Yunfan stopped his parents and called his sister over. The three of them were a little confused. Chu Yunfan rarely spoke to them so seriously. After the three of them gathered, Chu Yunfan said, Dad, Mom, I want to talk to you about Qingshuan's illness. I think I have an idea. Chu Yunfan said this, but the first reaction from the three of them was not joy. Especially Chu Wenqing, who suddenly became serious. He said, Yunfan, didn't your mother and I tell you long ago that we will be responsible for this matter? Don't worry about it. The most important thing for you is to cultivate hard, study hard, and get into a good university. Who told you that you could cure Xian? You must have been deceived. Chu Wenqing's first reaction was that his son had been deceived and believed in some so-called folk prescription. In fact, over the past 10 years, he had been continuously looking for so-called folk prescriptions, but none of them had proved useful. He had long given up, so he did not want his son to fall into the same trap. Dad, what are you thinking about? Who said I found a cure for Qingxian? Chu Yunfan immediately figured it out and said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Didn't the medical world release a cure for congenital genetic defects? That's what I'm talking about. Okay, but that requires a lot of money. Where are you going to get the money? Chu Wenqing obviously knew about this. Because of his daughter's illness, he followed some medical forums all year round and had a deep understanding of this method. It was indeed effective, and there were even no side effects. But there was a flaw, which was that it was extremely expensive. I recently learned how to refine pills, and then got my hands on an ancient recipe. I can refine better quality meridians cleansing pills. The treatment costs about 30 million, and I should be able to raise that amount pretty quickly. Chu Yunfan said the answer that he had been preparing for a long time. The three of them were silent for a moment. After a long while, Chu Wenqing finally opened his mouth and said, Is that how you got the money to buy the shadow blade? Yes. Chu Yunfan was originally worried about how to explain this matter. With the shadow blade as an example, all the problems would be much easier to explain. Chu Wenqing looked at Chu Yunfan and said, "You sure have grown up a lot recently. I believe that you can distinguish right from wrong. I'm not an old-fashioned person. As long as the money comes in through legal means, I say that it's all right." Hearing Chu Wenqing's words, Chu Yunfan let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that his father would not accept the money because it was his son who was bringing it in. However, he soon found it funny. His father was willing to lower his voice for the sake of his sister's illness, lowering his head and being obedient. Now that he accepted his son's help, what was the big deal? He was indeed not a particularly capable father, but the fatherly love he gave his children was no different from other people. That night, the Chu family was filled with laughter. Ever since his sister was born, there was finally a chance for this huge rock that had been weighing down the family to fall to the ground. Even after Chu Yunfan had called it a night, Chu Wenqing, who rarely drank, could not help but drink 2 more glasses. It was late at night, and the sky was cold, but their hearts were warm. Chapter 95. Compensation from the Army. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. Compensation from the Army. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Early the next morning, Chu Yunfan rushed to number 13 high school. As he carried the shadowless saber on his back, many of the students looked at him as he made his way through the school. That's senior Chu Yunfan from the 3rd grade. So he's Chu Yunfan. I didn't expect him to be so powerful. Third, that he and Gao Hongji from class 2, as well as Tang Xiyu, fought against an armored saber-toothed tiger and defeated it. Chu Yunfan listened to the discussions around him and knew that the news of yesterday had spread. He could not help but roll his eyes. Could this rumor be any more exaggerated? Did they really think the 3 of them could defeat an adult armored saber-toothed tiger just by working together? However, this rumor had spread really quickly. Along the way, and even after entering the class, many people were still paying attention to him. Not long after, Tang Xiyu and Gao Hongji also arrived. After the big battle yesterday, the 3 of them seemed to have some sort of estrangement that broke down on the spot. Although their relationship did not progress by leaps and bounds, at least when Chu Yunfan saw Tang Xiyu, she smiled and nodded at him. This was a very big breakthrough. In the past, when Tang Xiyu was in class 11, Chu Yunfan rarely saw her smile even after a year. She had kept her distance from everyone. It was not a cold and aloof aura. It was purely a feeling that told them that this girl was not easy to get close to. Everything went on as usual. Time passed. After literature class, Chu Yunfan stretched and was about to take a rest when suddenly, Qin Wu walked in and swept his gaze across the class. Then, he said, "Chu Yunfan, Gao Hongji, Tang Xiyu. Please step outside for a moment." Everyone's gaze fell on the 3 of them. They did not know why the homeroom teacher was looking for them, but some people guessed that it might be related to yesterday's incident. Otherwise, why was he not looking for anyone besides these 3? The 3 of them looked at each other before standing up and following Qin Wu out of the classroom. They walked all the way to the principal's office. Upon entering, they realized that there were 2 people waiting inside. One of them was the mysterious military officer, Shui Bailong, whom they had met before. The other person was a man who looked to be in his 50s or 60s. However, he had taken good care of himself. He had a head full of black hair and a straight figure. There was a powerful aura hidden within his body. He was a powerful expert. This person was none other than the principal of number 13 high school, Hua Qingtian. "Principal, Lieutenant Shui." Chu Yunfan stepped forward and greeted them. "May I know why you're looking for us?" When he saw Chu Yunfan come forward, Shui Bailong's eyes lit up. He had not noticed that Chu Yunfan was the leader of the 3. Although it was obvious that the 3 people had not been divided. However, Chu Yunfan had come forward to speak on their behalf, and the other two people acted as if it was normal for this to happen. This was enough to explain everything. He had originally thought that the one who could truly make the decision was that little girl. That little girl was obviously different from ordinary students. Bai Long, you tell them. At this moment, Hua Qingtian opened his mouth to speak. A light flashed through Chu Yunfan's eyes. It was obvious that the principal and Shui Bai Long had a deep relationship. They called each other by their given names. He suddenly understood why Shui Bai Long, the commander of the elite troops, had come to take care of these rookies. Under normal circumstances, a company commander would have been enough. It seemed like it had been because of the principal's personal relationship with the lieutenant. It's like this. Due to our negligence in our work, you were put in danger. On behalf of the army, I apologize. I've also brought some compensation. Shui Bai Long said slowly. Chu Yunfan and the other two clearly had shocked expressions on their faces. They had never expected that the army would actually compensate them. He had heard that a few seniors from the previous years had died on the battlefield, and that was the only way they would be compensated. However, it was only the Federation government who came to compensate them. The army had never heard of anyone coming to personally compensate them. After all, the students of the academy already owed the army a favor after the army had taken them to the battlefield to train. The death of a person was a big matter, but now, it was just a small matter that had not caused any casualties. Chu Yunfan then glanced at Hua Qingtian, thinking that it was probably because of Hua Qingtian again. As he spoke, Shui Bai Long pointed at the 3 boxes on the table and said, each of these 3 boxes has a 3-orifice origin spirit pill. Consider it as compensation from the army. 3-orifice origin spirit pill. Officer Shui, I've only heard of a type of 9-orifice origin spirit pill. Chu Yunfan suddenly opened his mouth and asked because he suddenly remembered from the memories of the Alchemy Emperor, there was indeed a type of pill called 9-orifice origin spirit pill. This type of pill was an extremely high-grade pill. It was a type of pill that increases one's cultivation strength, and its effects were extremely good. It was no problem for the person who took this pill to increase the speed of their cultivation by even 3 times the normal rate. It was just that the ingredients used in it were extremely precious. Even the Alchemy Emperor had not made it many times. You actually know about the 9-orifice origin spirit pill. That's right. Actually, this 3-orifice origin spirit pill was created after the simplification of the 9-orifice origin spirit pill formula. Back then, from the items of the ancient Zenith civilization that we dug up, there was a pill formula for the 9-orifice origin spirit pill. It was a pity that the pill formula was badly damaged. In the end, after many years of improvement, the Alchemy King developed the 3-orifice origin spirit pill. Although its effects are far from being comparable to the 9-orifice origin spirit pill, it's still very useful. You guys won't be able to buy it on the market. Shui Bai Long said. It's a medicinal pill specially provided to members of the army. The 3 of them were stunned for a moment. Shui Bai Long actually brought a special medicinal pill specially provided for the members of the army as compensation. Thank you, Lieutenant Shui. Chu Yunfan and the other 2 took the box but did not open it. However, they knew that the medicinal pills specially provided by the army should be good stuff. It's nothing. There are many good things in our army. This is just a small thing. Now, studying in university is not the only way forward. If you join the army, you can also grow into indomitable figures. In the future, when you become a general, you'll all be the pillars of society. Shui Bai Long said again. Chu Yunfan finally knew what his real intentions were. After talking for so long, he wanted to rope them into the army. Ahem, enough. It's not good for you to openly poach people in front of me. Hua Qingtian said. Uncle Hua, they're your students in your school, but they have to graduate, right? When they graduate from high school, whether they want to go to university or join the army is their own business. Are you really going to mind this? Shui Bailong could not help but say helplessly. That is a matter for the future. Don't poach people from me. Hua Qingtian said rudely. All right. The three of you can go back to class. Perform well and try to get good results in the final exam. Hua Qingtian said to the three of them. The three of them finally let out a sigh of relief, took their things, and left. Chapter 96. Half a month of progress. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. Half a month of progress. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Shui Bailong brought compensation from the army. Although he had the intention of recruiting those three, it was clear that with the old principal Hua Qingtian around, Shui Bailong's thoughts could not truly see the light of day. With that, this session's actual battle was considered complete. For many students, life went on. For the top 20 selection that was happening in a month, many people were gearing up for it. They did not dare to think about the top few. Everyone knew that the first place was either Ouyang or Zhangteng. Among the remaining people, both Chu Yunfan and Tang Xiyu were popular candidates. However, there were a total of 20 positions. For them, that was an aim they could strive for. They instinctively thought that if they could not keep up with the top 20, the gap between them and these people would slowly get wider and wider. At the same time, the top 20 selection coincided with the final exam. It was also the final exam of their high school career. Everyone wanted to make a name for themselves in this exam and get good grades to take home for the new year. Chu Yunfan's life was also split into two parts, classes and cultivation. For the current Chu Yunfan, the most important thing was to consolidate his cultivation. He had just broken through to the third level of the Qi Si stage. He had to consolidate it first before he could make a breakthrough to the fourth level. Although he felt a little pressed for time, he was not in a hurry. He still had a few months, which was enough for him to make a breakthrough. Moreover, this kind of thing could not be rushed. In just 2 to 3 months, he had gone from an ordinary student to being above most of the students, becoming a strong contender for the top 20 in the eyes of other students. Chu Yunfan had enough time to complete his transformation. In more than half a year, no matter what, against a dragon or a snake, he would certainly obtain victory. Half a month passed by in this carefree manner. By then, Chu Yunfan had completely consolidated his third level of the Qi Si stage. Unlike back when he had first broken through, there was no need for him to be so careful anymore. In fact, he had rushed to the peak of the third level of the Qi Si stage in one fell swoop. During this half a month, other than cultivating by himself, Chu Yunfan had also sparred with Gao Hongji. During this half a month, Gao Hongji had improved very quickly, and with Chu Yunfan's guidance from time to time, Gao Hongji's firestorm spear technique had finally stepped into the perfection stage. However, what frustrated Gao Hongji was that although he had cultivated the firestorm spear technique to the perfection stage, and that this technique was of a higher grade than the earth-splitting saber technique and the roaring wind saber technique that Chu Yunfan cultivated, during sparring, Gao Hongji was repeatedly defeated by Chu Yunfan. Every time, Chu Yunfan would only need one hand to suppress him. This made Gao Hongji extremely frustrated. After being provoked by Chu Yunfan, Gao Hongji decided to take the 3-orifice origin spirit pill. It was indeed worthy of being a special medicinal pill of the army. Even within the army, not everyone could obtain the 3-orifice origin spirit pill. Gao Hongji himself was already at the peak of the second level of the Qi Si stage. After taking the 3-orifice origin spirit pill, he easily stepped into the third level of the Qi Si stage. Half a month later, he had already cultivated to the peak of the third level of the Qi Si stage, just like Chu Yunfan. But even though his cultivation was now on par with Chu Yunfan, during sparring, Chu Yunfan was still able to defeat him single-handedly. It was no different from before. Chu Yunfan was at least several times stronger than those in the same realm as him. This made Gao Hongji shout out that it was unfair and that God was biased. But every time he was defeated, he would come around again soon after. He was not stupid. He knew very well that there were many benefits of sparring with Chu Yunfan. According to this rate of progress, he would be able to step into the 4th level of the Qi Si stage before the final exam. With this ability, he would be able to participate in the college entrance exam and would be able to enter an ordinary university. Among those of number 13 high, there was no need to guess where the top few would go, but there was hope for the others to enter the top 10. This had already exceeded Gao Hongji's expectations. Although he too was an elite in his class, he was only an ordinary elite. Now, this was equivalent to crossing over another step. In his heart, he was clear. And the relationship between the two had always been very good, so some words could be understood without needing to be said. Besides Gao Hongji, Tang Xiyu had also taken the 3-orifice origin spirit pill, smoothly stepping from the peak of the 4th level of the Qi Si stage into the 5th level of the Qi Si stage. Now, she was reaching the peak of the 5th level of the Qi Si stage at a godly speed. According to this kind of progress, she could advance to the 6th level of the Qi Si stage before the final exam. This cultivation base was already on par with the strongest in the class, Ouyang, and Zhongting of Class 1. Of course, the prerequisite was that those two did not have another breakthrough this month. But even so, Tang Xiyu's improvement speed was extremely shocking. However, both Chu Yunfan and Gao Hongji were very calm. After all, they had been classmates for more than a year. They had long gotten used to seeing Tang Xiyu's improvement speed, which made her seem as if she was riding a rocket. When Tang Xiyu had transferred to the school more than a year ago, her cultivation level was far inferior to everyone else. However, in just over a year, she had already surpassed most of her classmates. To Chu Yunfan though, the most important thing was not cultivation, but the refinement of the Meridian's cleansing pill. Every single pill had to be of perfect quality. Other than him, no one else would dare proclaim such a thing. And other than Lu Qingxian, no one else would believe his arrogant declaration. This time, for Lu Qingxian, this was a huge gamble. For this, she had gambled everything and had even put her company on the line in exchange for a loan. If she failed, she would have no other choice but to close shop and declare bankruptcy. But even then, she chose to believe Chu Yunfan's words. If she failed, she could only go bankrupt and would not be able to rise again. And if she succeeded, she would break the blanket ban that had been set up by Chu Zhigua. From then on, the company would rise to even higher levels. There would be no problem at all. After half a month of planning and using all the assets of the company as collateral, the loan that she wanted was finally granted. The ingredients that she had ordered from Kunlun realm had also finally arrived. The time to concoct the pills had finally arrived. On this day, after school, Chu Yunfan did not go home. Instead, he rushed to Lu Qingshuan's company. Meanwhile, Lu Qingxian, who had long spoken to Chu Yunfan, had been waiting for him since early morning. Master Chu, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Lu Qingxian hurriedly welcomed Chu Yunfan into the office. Chu Yunfan smiled and said, as you know, I still have classes. I don't have that much freedom when it comes to time. Although he could ask for leave, it would not be very good for him to keep doing so. If it was not necessary, he did not want to keep asking for leave. All right, let's cut the chit-chat. Take me to the lab. Chapter 97. Dazzling Alchemy Techniques. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. Dazzling Alchemy Techniques. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Chu Yunfan did not waste any more time with Lu Qingxian and went straight to the alchemy lab. At this moment, Chu Yunfan was already considering whether he should also build a lab of his own. However, although his home was not considered small and it was more than enough for 4 people to live in, to build an alchemy room, that would simply be impossible. Hence, the idea of buying another house surfaced in Chu Yunfan's mind. He wanted to buy a house in a high-end residential area, maybe even a villa. The conditions inside such a place would be even better than his current house. After his sister was cured of her congenital genetic disease, that kind of location would also be more conducive for her recovery. Improving her physique and practicing martial arts would benefit her greatly. However, the price would definitely be quite high. He would need to plan this out carefully. At this moment, the lab was brimming with ingredients. Lu Qingxian had gotten someone to sort it out early in the morning. All of the medicinal ingredients were in their own pile. Master Chu, I've already prepared all the ingredients for you. I could very well go bankrupt at any moment. Lu Qingxian said as she looked at Chu Yunfan. Chu Yunfan smiled slightly. Don't worry, I won't really let you go bankrupt. Seeing that Chu Yunfan was still full of confidence, Lu Qingxian felt even more confident. She thought to herself, perhaps it was his confidence in having everything under control that could affect everyone. Chu Yunfan walked to the alchemical furnace and toured on the fire. He brought over the ingredients. I can produce 3 meridians cleansing pill in one sitting. I plan to complete those 30 perfect quality meridians cleansing pill in 10 days. Chu Yunfan said. He still had to attend classes and cultivate. He did not have much time left outside of this. 3 perfect grade meridians cleansing pill a day was more or less enough. He had the memories of the Alchemy Emperor, so he could concoct as many pills as he pleased. It was just like how he knew so many profound martial skills, but he could not use them because those techniques were all very profound and the burden on his body would prove too great. And now he was concocting pills at the same time. To concoct such high-grade pills, not only did one need to have a pill formula, but it would be useless if one just gathered all the ingredients. The higher the grade of the pill, the higher the requirements of the alchemist himself. Currently, when an ordinary alchemist was to concoct pills, they would use an ordinary furnace fire. If they took it a step up, they would need a special furnace fire that far exceeded the temperature of an ordinary furnace flame. If they wanted to take another step further and reach the level of a great alchemist, they would need to learn a special method and cultivate the alchemic fire. Only by cultivating this unique alchemic fire would it be possible for them to reach that level. At that level, pill concoction would no longer rely on fire spewed out by a machine. Instead, it would be done using the alchemist's own alchemic fire. This placed an extremely high requirement on the alchemist's strength. Every minute and every second of this alchemic fire would consume the alchemist's true energy. This was a big burden on the alchemist. Moreover, some perfect quality pills needed more than 10 days, up to half a month, to produce. This was also a great test for the alchemist's physical fitness. Therefore, a martial arts expert might not necessarily be an alchemist master, but an alchemist master must be a martial arts expert. For example, the Alchemy Emperor. Although he had attained cultivation through alchemy, his combat strength had also reached the sovereign stage. Otherwise, how would he have dared participate in the Battle of the Emperors? Although the Alchemy Emperor's combat strength was amongst the lowest of the emperors, and his martial arts were mostly accumulated through the concoction of medicinal pills, he had crossed a certain threshold. Unless the other party was also one of the emperors, they would be easily suppressed by the Alchemy Emperor. Therefore, even though Chun Yunfan knew many pill formulas in his mind, he had to take them step by step. His cultivation had to be able to keep up with it. If it was the Alchemy Emperor, concocting hundreds of perfect quality meridians cleansing pill in one go was a piece of cake. However, concocting 3 at the same time was Chu Yunfan's limit. This was because he still had to ensure the quality of the pills. To Chu Yunfan, this was still far from enough. However, to Lu Qingxian, it was already a miracle. concocting 3 meridians cleansing pill in one sitting, and also ensuring that the meridians cleansing pill were of quality, was an almost impossible feat. Even an alchemy master could not do such a thing. Otherwise, perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pill would not be in such high demand. She was still a little worried though. The ingredients for just 3 meridians cleansing pill was already worth millions. If they failed, where would she go to cry? However, after a moment, she grew confident. Chu Yunfan, who was immersed in the concoction process, seemed to have changed into a different person. If Chu Yunfan normally looked like an ordinary little boy next door, the aura of Chu Yunfan who was immersed in pill concoction was simply unimaginable. He was just like a god in this field. He was clearly just concocting pills, but she felt like she was watching a performance of a martial arts master. That aura of being able to do everything so easily was simply indescribable. In short, it was amazing. The alchemists she had invited before were clearly inferior to Chu Yunfan. When they were concocting body refining pills, which was a relatively basic pill, they had to be very careful. From time to time, they would check the furnace fire and calculate the time, trying to control every step of the process. On the other hand, Chu Yunfan seemed to have integrated these steps into his bloodstream. Everything came naturally to him. Anyone with eyes could easily tell the difference between the two sides. Lu Qingxian was stunned, and she became even more curious about Chu Yunfan's background. Was this really a person from an ordinary family? For Chu Yunfan, concocting 3 perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pill at the same time was also a test of his current strength. In the process of concocting pills, his physical strength and energy would be consumed at a rapid rate. Although Lu Qingxian had confidence in Chu Yunfan, after a few hours, when the 3 meridians cleansing pill were ready, she immediately jumped up and took the pills out of the furnace and put them into the pill assessment machine. Soon, the test results were out. It was 100% perfect. Quality. It was the same for all 3 of the pills. It really worked. Lu Qingxian could not help but exclaim. Although she was confident, she was still extremely shocked when she saw the 3 perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills coming out of the furnace at the same time. It took Chu Yunfan quite a while to catch his breath. During the process, he looked calm. On the contrary, he had been extremely focused and had to keep his eyes and ears open at all times. This had consumed a lot of his energy. I'll leave these 3 meridians cleansing pills to you first. I'll be heading back now. I'll do the same thing tomorrow. I'll come here and continue concocting. Chu Yunfan said. At this moment, the sky was already dark, and he had to go home. No problem. Lu Qingxuan's face revealed an extremely elated expression. She could already see the scene of her breaking the ban that the Tingda group had placed on her. The dark clouds that had shrouded her heart for months were finally about to disperse. Chapter 98. 4th Level Chi Si Realm. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 98. 4th Level Chi Si Realm. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. After concocting the pills and leaving Lu Qingxuan's company, it was already 8 or 9 in the evening. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Although it was close to winter now, with the help of modern science and technology, Calm Ocean City would look like it was in spring all year round. Even the rains and snow that fell were controlled, including the amount that fell. Chu Yunfan had just arrived home when he received a message from the bank. There was a transfer of 4.5 million yuan into his account. It was the payment for today's batch of perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills. A couple of moments later, Lu Qingxian also sent a message. The 3 pills have been sold. Chu Yunfan smiled slightly. This sales speed was extremely quick. Lu Qingxian had probably already found a buyer beforehand. These perfect. Quality meridians cleansing pills were indeed in high demand. Every year, humans birth many newborns. Among them were many Nubams from wealthy families. These people naturally hoped that their children would be able to consume the perfect quality meridian's cleansing pill. In the future, those who managed to do so would be ahead of their peers. When Chu Yunfan arrived home, his family had already finished dinner. His mother got up to reheat his meal. His father was watching the news while his younger sister was doing her live streaming. Recently, Chu Qingxuan's streaming career had been growing. This surprised Chu Yunfan. Nowadays, there had to be at least 80,000, if not, 100,000 active streamers. And there was no lack of handsome men and beautiful women amongst these people. It would be very difficult for any one of these to make a name for themselves. However, his sister had managed to rise pretty quickly. In just a few months, she had already become a streamer with over 10,000 subscribers. Although she was still far from the millions that those popular streamers, it was still a very good start. After having his dinner, Chu Yunfan retreated into his room and took out the box containing the 3-orifice origin spirit pill. In 2 weeks, he had finally stabilized and cultivated to the peak of the 3rd level Qi C stage. Now, it was time to consume the 3-orifice origin spirit pill and break through to the 4th level Qi C stage. Both Tang Xiu and Gao Hongji had already broken through once and they too had relied on the 3-orifice origin spirit pill. Chu Yunfan sat down cross-legged and swallowed the 3-orifice origin spirit pill that emitted a strong medicinal fragrance. Instantly, he felt the effects of the 3-orifice origin spirit pill spread like crazy through his body. Chu Yunfan immediately activated the Emperor method to circulate through his body and began to absorb the pill's medicinal effects. He could feel that with every small circulation, his cultivation strength would also increase by a small amount. As he continued to circulate his power, it continued to increase. Chu Yunfan, who had reached the 3rd level Qi C stage, could even sense the barrier before the 4th level. He continuously sent attacks onto the barrier. After a short while, Chu Yunfan felt that all the surging power within his meridians had been transformed into true energy. This was because he cultivated in the Emperor method. Thus the quality of his physical body was much better than those of ordinary people. While this was all happening, the Godhead in his mind emitted waves of clear currents, which allowed him to stay calm and continuously attack the barrier of the 4th level Qi C stage. With each attack, the barrier would weaken and waver a little. He had no idea how much time had passed. After the mass of true energy that he kept circulating had grown to a certain extent, the barrier to the 4th level Qi C stage that had troubled him for some time finally broke. Boom! The speed of his true energy had increased again. It was obvious that the depth of his true energy had increased by another level. Chu Yunfan opened his eyes. He had finally stepped into the 4th level of the Qi C stage. If he were to take the college entrance exams right now, he would surely be able to pass them with flying colors. However, he was not satisfied. He was still some distance away from Ouyang, the elite of his class. And that was without considering for the elites in the other focus high schools of their city, the top students in Donghua City, who were the top of the entire earth. There was even a rumor that the high school students of the Kunlun realm were even stronger than the high school students of Earth. He felt like there were still too many in front of him blocking his path. He still had many milestones he needed to surpass. It was still too early for him to be complacent. Fortunately, he still had time. Chu Yunfan looked at the clock and saw that it was already late at night. However, he was not sleepy. Instead, he continued to close his eyes and continued circulating the Emperor method to consolidate his 4th level Qi C stage that he had just ascended to. Even the medicinal effects of the 3-orifice origin spirit pill had not been completely absorbed. There was still a considerable portion that was scattered throughout his body. Tang Xiu and Gao Hongji too were able to quickly ascend and cultivate to the peak of a new realm. This 3-orifice origin spirit pill was indeed extremely useless. Early the next morning, Chu Yunfan arrived at school as usual. Of course, he was not able to hide his breakthrough from Gao Hongji's eyes because during the fixed sparring session every morning, Gao Hongji would be brutally beaten up by Chu Yunfan. Immediately, Gao Hongji burst into tears again. He had worked hard to reach the peak of the third-level Qi Si stage, thinking that he could finally be on par with Chu Yunfan. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, Chu Yunfan would make another breakthrough again? He was so frustrated that he almost spewed blood. From the start, he was already no match for Chu Yunfan when they were at the same stage. Now that Chu Yunfan had broken through to the fourth level, the gap between them grew ever wider. Gao Hongji looked at Chu Yunfan gloomily. Now, after Ouyang and Tang Xiu, Chu Yunfan was the third person in Class 2 to have broken through to the fourth-level Qi Si stage. There were a few others like Gao Hongji, who were all at the peak of the third level. Then, there was Feng Dang, who had just ascended to the third level. This was the current cultivation level of the elite students in the two focus classes. The rest of the students were still at the second level or at the peak of the first level. After being defeated by Chu Yunfan over and over, Gao Hongji started training even harder. He was not like before, where he would spend most of his day idling around. His ability to stand out amongst many students had a lot to do with his current hard work. However, today, Chu Yunfan ignored Gao Hongji. He was waiting for Tang Xiu to arrive. And as usual, Tang Xiu entered the classroom after a few short minutes. As soon as she entered the classroom, Chu Yunfan went up to her. As she looked at him in puzzlement, Chu Yunfan issued a challenge, "Let's spar." "You want to spar with me?" Tang Xiu could not help but be a little stunned. A look of shock overcame her exquisite, pretty face. "That's right. I believe we have yet to fight one another," Chu Yunfan said with a faint smile. Chapter 99. The shocked crowd. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. The shocked crowd. All right, let's do it. Tang Xiu thought about it for a moment before agreeing. Chu Yunfan nodded with a smile. Tang Xiu was already at the peak of the fifth level Qi Si stage. Second only to the class monitors of the two focus classes, Zhang Tang and Ouyang. Chu Yunfan wanted to use this battle to test his strength. News of their upcoming spar session spread through the class like wildfire. Ever since the class division assessment, most of the people in Class 2 were not much different from before. Their current standing had not changed much since then. However, some of the students had made astonishing strides. Among them, the two who had made the most progress were Chu Yunfan and Tang Xiu. Chu Yunfan had become one of the elite students of the martial arts stream during the class division assessment. Now, he was already one of the best among those at the top. He was a strong contender for the top few places of the top 20. Although Tang Xiu had long been an elite student and had quite a reputation within the school, people regarded her differently. She was widely recognized as a powerhouse that was only second to the class monitors, Ouyang and Zhangteng. Therefore, a battle between Chu Yunfan and Tang Xiu would surely be interesting to watch. Even the students of Class 1 who had caught wind of the news rushed to Class 2's training room. At this moment, Chu Yunfan and Tang Xiu were already in the training room and were standing facing one another. All around them, they were surrounded by the students of Class 1, Class 2, and even the students of other well-informed classes. On one of the surrounding tables, Ouyang was standing there with his hands behind his back as he observed the two in the middle. The news of the battle had even attracted him. This was because these two people had improved at an astonishing rate, especially Tang Xiu. In the beginning, Tang Xiu clearly had been more outstanding than Chu Yunfan and there was a clear gap between them. However, now, she was actually only second to Ouyang and was a threat to his position in Class 2. And then there was Chu Yunfan. Although he was currently not as strong as Tang Xiu, in Ouyang's eyes, Chu Yunfan posed an even greater threat than Tang Xiu. It would not be long before Chu Yunfan would be on par with him. A few moments later, another figure appeared amongst the crowd. It was none other than the class monitor of Class 1, Zhang Teng. The two class monitors exchanged glances and immediately understood the other's intentions. It was obvious that they took Chen Yunfan and Tang Xiyu seriously and regarded them as threats. That was why they had come to check out the enemy. You go first. Tang Xiyu stared at Chu Yunfan with her beautiful eyes as she spoke. Chu Yunfan did not hesitate and immediately struck out with his saber. Clang! A blinding light flashed through the air. Following that, the shadowless saber slashed toward Tang Xiyu. Voom! The air was torn apart by the shadowless blade that was filled with true energy, the sound of the blades vibrating carrying through the air. Chu Yunfan's strike was fast. Not many were able to follow its movement. Some only saw a blur. Then, his saber arrived in front of Tang Xiyu. Many people cried out in surprise as if they had already foreseen Tang Xiyu being cut and injured. And at this moment, Tang Xiyu's simple double-edged sword made its move. The sword's ray met the saber's light and blocked the incoming strike. Clang! A loud sound of metal clashing rang through the air. Chu Yunfan was a little shocked. He knew how powerful his strike was. It was so powerful that even the armored saber-toothed tiger had been forced to step back. However, Tang Xiyu barely budged. After a stream of true energy had flowed through her body just once, she had managed to block his strike. Chu Yunfan immediately knew his physical advantage, which he was so proud of, was not much of an advantage in front of a martial artist like Tang Xiyu who was far stronger than him. The other party could rely on her profound martial arts base to deal with him. Chu Yunfan took a step forward. At the same time, the saber in his hand slashed downward. It had immediately followed after the earlier slash. This was the earth-splitting saber technique. One slash after another, the momentum of the saber was built up and was endless. Each slash was more powerful and terrifying than the previous one. Clang! 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 The two sides continued to exchange blows and the sounds of metal clashing continued as well. Gao Hongji, who was watching from the side, instantly saw the difference between him and Tang Xiyu. He also frequently exchanged blows with Chu Yunfan. Although he was known for his innate divine strength, after exchanging 3 blows with Chu Yunfan, he would often begin to fall behind. After 10 moves, the approaching ending would be within sight. If Chu Yunfan was ruthless, he could even end the battle within 10 moves. However, Tang Xiyu was able to spar with Chu Yunfan in a lively manner. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 moves had passed, but she was not suppressed in the slightest. As for the others, what they were lamenting was not this, but that Chu Yunfan was actually able to hold his ground against Tang Xiyu. The two of them have ascended. Chu Yunfan is already at the 4th level Qi Si stage, and Tang Xiyu has already stepped into the 5th. Yang commented as he watched the battle between the two sides. He was quite surprised. He remembered that the strength of these two had not been at this level just half a month ago. Especially Chu Yunfan, who had made a breakthrough during the battle with that monster. Many people had witnessed this. At that time, Chu Yunfan's speed and strength suddenly increased. Everyone saw it and knew that he had made a breakthrough. But they had not expected that Chu Yunfan would make another breakthrough after just 2 weeks. To break through twice in a month, such a speed was indeed shocking. Moreover, what surprised Yang even further was that Chu Yunfan's foundation was not shaky in the slightest. Chu Yunfan's control of true energy showed that his foundation was rock solid. On one hand, Yang's eyes were filled with amazement, while on the other side, Zhang Ting's eyes flashed with malice. If these two continued on like this, would they not be on equal footing with him very soon? One Yang was already enough, do not let there be another 2. Being surpassed by Chu Yunfan and Tang Xiyu was something he had never thought of. How was such a thing possible? The other students had also seen through the cultivation of the two combatants, but it was exactly because of this that they were even more amazed. Chu Yunfan, who was at the 4th level Qi C stage, could actually hold up against Tang Xiyu, who was at the peak of the 5th level Qi C stage. Chu Yunfan's combat ability was simply astonishing. If people were still wondering if Chu Yunfan was qualified to compete for the top 20, then this battle quashed those doubts in their hearts, letting them know that the rumors indeed rang true. Although Chu Yunfan was only at the 4th level Qi C stage, in terms of combat strength, he was no less inferior than someone in the 5th level Qi C stage. The two combatants were also shocked in their hearts. For Tang Xiyu, who was usually not worried about those in the same stage, had not expected to be pushed to this extent by Chu Yunfan, who was only at the 4th level Qi C stage. She had not taken it to heart when she heard Gao Hongji say that Chu Yunfan's strength was boundless. But now, she realized Chu Yunfan's true strength was in a real fight. If it were not for the special cultivation method she trained in, she might even have been defeated. Chapter 100. Standing up for Tang Xiyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100. Standing up for Tang Xiyu. After realizing this, Tang Xiyu was shocked. Only she herself was clear about the inner energy she cultivated. And its quality was extremely high. There should not be anyone in number 13 high who could compare to her. Therefore, she had never been afraid of anyone who was in the same stage as her. Although this was just an instinct, she had wholly believed in it. On the other side, Chu Yunfan was also extremely shocked. This was because he was clear about the strength of his slashes. Moreover, he would occasionally throw out a roaring wind saber technique in addition to his earth-splitting saber technique, which caused his speed to suddenly increase by several folds. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long been caught off guard. Even the infant armored saber-toothed tiger had been forced back by this move. The monster was suppressed so much that it had barely been able to raise its head. However, Tang Xiyu, who was only a little unaccustomed at the beginning, quickly adapted to Chu Yunfan's style of fighting. This kind of battle wisdom was indeed astonishing. Clang! 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 In the blink of an eye, the two sides had already exchanged more than 100 moves. Normally, when a person reaches this point, their physical strength would inevitably decline. Regardless of whether it was speed or strength, they would have started declining. However, the two of them did not see any signs of slowing down in the slightest. Instead, they fought faster and faster. The other students in the ordinary classes who had not stepped into the Qi C stage felt that their eyes could not keep up with the speed of their strikes. They were all secretly shocked. Is this the strength of the elites of the focus class? It is indeed powerful. Even the most powerful student in our class would not be able to withstand a few moves. I heard that Chu Yunfan's cultivation level had been about the same as ours just a few months ago. Now, we're actually so far apart. I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to withstand even a single strike from him. If he had not entered the focus class, would there really be such a big gap right now? I heard that the two of them aren't the most powerful. The most powerful ones are Ouyang and Zhongteng. I can't imagine how powerful those two could possibly be. What the students did not know was that the Ouyang and Zhongteng that they were talking about were also shocked by the battle between Chu Yunfan and Tang Xiyu. Whether it's their speed, strength, or comprehension of moves, they're all impeccable. D****, how could they be so powerful? Zhongteng was secretly annoyed. Although he was arrogant, he was not stupid. His foresight was much better than that of an ordinary student's. Naturally, he could see that these two people were outstanding. Although they were not as good as him, the main point was that their improvement speed was extremely shocking. Chu Yunfan's saber technique was like a mountain pressing down from above. One strike after another, it was clear that he had stepped into the perfection stage. If they were in the same stage, even Zhongteng did not dare say that he could completely receive Chu Yunfan's attacks. And Tang Xiyu's sword technique was also like drifting clouds and flowing water. It was incomparably smooth. Between each strike, there were almost no flaws. Although he had never seen this kind of sword technique, it was definitely better than Chu Yunfan's earth-spitting saber technique. In most cases, the higher the martial skill, the better. When a low-level martial technique was practiced to its peak, its power would be endless. However, this law did not apply to Tang Xiu. This was because Tang Xiu's sword technique had also reached the perfection stage. Otherwise, she would not have been able to block Chu Yunfan's seemingly endless strikes. On the other side, Yang noticed something else. It's not just that the two of them have great stamina which far surpassed that of ordinary students. Most importantly, their energy recovery speed is ridiculously fast. The level of their inner energy is very high. This strength is not normal. Yang noticed these things. However, he was curious. The price for high-level inner energy was very high indeed. Forget about Tang Xiu. When she transferred in a year ago, she had been shrouded in mystery. Many people guessed that she had a strong background, so it was normal for her to be able to cultivate high levels of inner energy. However, many people knew that Chu Yunfan was just from an ordinary family. How could he have the money to obtain high-grade inner energy? After being classmates with Chu Yunfan for a few months, not only did Yang not understand him better, he even felt that he had encountered even more mysteries instead. Clang! The two sides had already exchanged over more than 100 moves, and it was still difficult to determine who the winner would be. Chu Yunfan took the initiative to withdraw from the battle. He raised his saber and put his hands together, saying, "If this battle continues, I think it'll be difficult to determine the winner. I think we should stop here." Determining the victor of this battle was not necessarily impossible. It was just that there had been over hundreds of moves, and he merely wanted to test the extent of his strength. It was not as if he wanted to fight Tang Xiu to the death. He noticed that the gazes of the people around him were different. This battle had allowed him to rise to the top of the hearts of those in number 13 high. Okay. Tang Xiu agreed. She calmed her breathing and put away her sword. Suddenly, a provocative voice came from the crowd. It was a youth around the age of 16 or 17. He wore a dark purple martial arts uniform over a strong physique. He stood out from the crowd and sneered at Tang Xiu. "Tang Xiu, you're as famous as me. Now that you've been forced to this extent by a guy who's one stage lower than you, do you still have the face to be on par with me?" the youth taunted. "Isn't that Zhu Yi? This is going to be good." Recently, he's been on par with Tang Xiu and has been complaining non-stop. Now, he finally found an opportunity to flare up. "He's Zhu Yi from Class 1. I heard that the strongest in the focus classes are the two class monitors, Yang and Zhangteng. And below them are Tang Xiu and Zhu Yi. They're both top-notch powerful figures. But what Zhu Yi said makes sense. Tang Xiu has such a big reputation, but she was leveled by Chu Yunfan. I think her reputation may have stemmed from her beauty." Many students were discussing animatedly. After being leveled by Chu Yunfan, the halo on Tang Xiu's body had weakened a lot in their eyes. Chu Yunfan frowned slightly. Just now, he was fighting with Tang Xiu. How could he not know whether Tang Xiu was worthy of her name or not? That's right. If you ask me, do you think you're worthy to be on par with her? Chu Yunfan stepped forward and sneered at Zhu Yi. What do you mean? Zhu Yi looked at Chu Yunfan with an unsightly expression. My words are literal. Chu Yunfan said. Chu Yunfan, don't think that you can talk to me like that just because you forced Tang Xiu to a draw. You're still far from my level. Zhu Yi said to Chu Yunfan with a cold expression. What more do you have to say? If I don't kneel to you within 10 moves, I'll consider it my loss. Chu Yunfan shouted. Good, good, good. You actually dare to be so arrogant after drawing with Tang Xiu. I'll teach you a lesson. Zhu Yi was angered by Chu Yunfan's attitude. The eyes of the students lit up. There was going to be another great battle to watch. However, many of them did not believe what Chu Yunfan had just said. He said that he would beat Zhu Yi within 10 moves. Although he had just forced Tang Xiyu to a draw, Zhu Yi was as famous as Tang Xiyu. He was not inferior to Tang Xiyu in the slightest. Tang Xiyu watched this scene silently. Her beautiful eyes lit up. However, she did not stop Chu Yunfan from standing up for her. Only she knew the thoughts in her head.